All right, everybody, welcome to the Seven Figure Sourcing Summit today. I'm super excited to have a live panel of specialists, sourcing specialists from all over the world. This is really like the Olympics of sourcing, guys. I'll quickly go around the room and introduce everyone. And thank you, everybody, for joining the Seven Figure Sourcing Summit. It's really the first time like we've ever done this sourcing event covering all the different bases, all the different places around the world. So I'd like to quickly introduce our guest panelists who are joining us live from all over the world. First, we have Liz Long. Liz Long spoke about sourcing from the US today. Liz, would you like to quickly introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I run a product accelerator. So we help anyone with a physical product idea source it and bring it to market. So all of the creative tasks that are associated as well. And I do a lot of sourcing in the US where I am based. And so I'm really passionate about domestic manufacturing.
Perfect. So, we've heard all the news about nearshoring, bringing back manufacturing. So Liz is an expert at that. So if you guys have any questions about US sourcing, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'd love to keep this interactive with our live panel today. Next, we have Sebastian Hertz, who gave an excellent talk about sourcing from Europe. I think it's like 2 a.m. in Europe right now. Sebastian, welcome. Would you like to quickly introduce yourself?
It is. Good morning to all of you who are in the middle of the night. I hope you also got a nice cup of coffee. Best regards from Germany. I'm the co-founder of Signify Global Product Sourcing. And together with my better half, we actually do product sourcing from all over the world. We grew from, in 1 year and 5 months, from 1 employee, my better half herself, to 43 within 1 year and 5 months. And we're spread all over the world. But today we're here for sourcing from Europe specifically.
Excellent. Welcome, Sebastian. And next, I'd like to welcome Susanna Bermudez, who is a Latin America and Mexico sourcing specialist. And she gave a talk about the 80-20 of Mexico sourcing. So welcome, Susanna. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Gary, and hi to everyone. Like you said, I've been helping a lot of brands to source their products from different countries from Latin America, but specifically from Mexico. And I'm more than happy to help anyone that have that need of sourcing something that is like really close to the United States to make your success happen.
Excellent. Thank you, Susanna. Next, I'd like to welcome Mark joining us. She is an expert when it comes to sourcing from India. So please introduce yourself, Mark.
Okay, thanks, Gary. Yes, look, I'm one of the co-founders of India Sourcing Network, Megla Bawaj, who was going to join us, and I believe that she's got the times mixed up, and I don't know whether she's going to quite make it. We actually have, I suppose the main thing we do is a sourcing trip to India, which we started back in 2019. Then with the pandemic, things went a bit pear-shaped about that. So we sort of started doing a lot of online work and introducing suppliers over the internet, doing interviews. So we did that for the past sort of 2.5 years, and now we finally got the India sourcing trip back on track. But mainly what we do, we don't actually do sourcing ourselves. We just provide vetted suppliers for people to actually source from, and guide them through all the tricks and trials of sourcing from India. Try and teach them the best way.
Excellent. Great. And welcome, Mark. And I believe Megla will join us in a little bit.
She messaged
time
you.
zones. Yeah, time zones are like the most difficult thing to manage these days. And yes, totally understandable. So thanks, Mark. And last but not least, Jim Kennemer joining us. He is an expert when it comes to sourcing from Vietnam. So please introduce yourself, Jim.
Hi, I'm Jim Kennemer. I'm the founder and managing director of Cosmo Sourcing. We've been sourcing from Vietnam since 2014 and have helped hundreds of clients find products in Vietnam. We got a team based in Vietnam that pretty much can help with furniture sourcing, clothing sourcing, etc. And Vietnam's been a great option, especially since the trade war started. It's really had a huge boom, and I think it's pretty much the next up-and-coming country in Asia.
Excellent. Thanks, Jim. So we are live right now. Mm-hmm. So if you guys can see and hear us joining us, can you please type your name and where you're joining us from? in the chat, just so we know. And also, I'm curious, what was the number one takeaway you've gotten so far from the sourcing summit? You know, Liz was talking about sourcing from the US, Sebastian sourcing from Europe, Susanna sourcing from Mexico, Mark talking about India, and Jim, Vietnam. So if you can please let us know in the chat, that would be great. And then I mean, to start things out, we had a number of pre-submitted questions, guys, and one of the questions was a little controversial, and I wanted to just put it out there to our panel. Natalia asked, China seems to be the most financially viable way of sourcing. Can you persuade me that I am mistaken? So who would like to to answer this first?
Oof. I mean, I feel like broadly that's probably true, but what really changes is when you come to very specific items and specific product categories. That's where the balance comes from, as well as factoring in other costs such as shipping. Like for instance, you're sourcing from the United States, you don't have to concern yourself too much with shipping costs, even though the item cost will be obviously most likely probably a bit higher. And like with Vietnam, like there's several items that Vietnam specializes in, especially wooden goods and cut and sew items, shoes, and a handful of other items that in general they can have a pretty good cost advantage on, but you can't get cost advantage on everything from Vietnam, obviously, but you can in very specific items.
Yes, look, and I think India is very similar to that. Really, it depends what you're sourcing. Obviously, if you want, some really China-centric plastic spatulas or something like that they mass produce, it's much cheaper. But if you want something that's a bit more unique, handcrafted, and different, you'll find India is quite competitive. And at the moment, like labour rates are much cheaper in India than they are in China. China's labour rates are sort of slowly creeping up. So that, and we don't have the lovely Trump tariff that China has at the moment. So that can be another big bearing on people, with bringing goods into the US. So I think those two things make it, as Jim says, only viable on certain products. I mean, I think anything telephone, computer-wise, all that type of thing, electronics, they're all probably still China-centric more so than, but it is moving. Those things are slowly starting to open up in India. Some of the bigger mobile phone companies are opening up over there. But, for the people we're talking to, I think, you've got to compare and look at your different things. And shipping is no dearer from India. In fact, I think it's been through the pandemic a lot cheaper to ship from India than it was from China. We never got up to 25,000 a container. I think we got to about 12. So, that sort of, makes it, a little bit easier to do as well.
I can only add to that, especially when it comes to sourcing from Europe. I mean, absolutely correct what you both said. We had last year still, I think 10% of our projects were sourced from outside of China. By now, we see a major shift from our customers to, of course, go more and more to Europe. I think roughly now we have still about 50% of our customers sourcing with us in China, but 55% roughly outside of China, more and more to Europe. The major fact, of course, and the major reason is the shipping costs, the shipping time, the production time, but as well also when sourcing from Europe, yes, prices may be a little bit higher, sometimes a lot higher, but also with the sourcing and shipping from Europe, in the end, it quite often, not only time-wise, of course, it's coming a lot faster, also shipping cost-wise, you may even be under China prices plus faster delivery.
I also want to add that it's not always just the unit cost we're looking at for people who are getting into new product categories. So sometimes what's more important to them is low quantities to be able to test, especially if it's a new design they're working on. And somewhere like the US really gives that flexibility. You'll find much lower order minimums, and a lot of really kind of boutique factories that are popping up as the Made in the USA resurgence continues. So for some people, the financial risk of getting in at a low order quantity is better for them, right? And they may choose to go elsewhere down the road, but in the beginning, they kind of mitigate their risk, and it can be helpful.
Also financially viable, one thing, if I may still add, is in terms of finance and advantages that is bringing in, is made in Europe, made in Mexico, made in the US, made in Germany, made in the EU. We even have customers by now who, whether it backfires on them or not, but they even put on their products not made in China as a marketing effect. And like you said, the Trump tariffs, the penalty tariffs, we also see several of them, of course, switching even away from China to Vietnam, to Jim, for example, simply for the fact it doesn't come from China. And that makes it, therefore, also an import a lot cheaper, plus all the marketing advantages that come with it.
Yeah. And yeah, we get a lot of clients who specifically don't want China. Even financial cost isn't an issue. They just don't wish to source from China for whatever reasons I can get into. But
Yeah,
it is
in the case
motivation.
of Mexico, well, I agree with all you. In the case of Mexico, we're seeing like more and more customers trying to source from Mexico, not just because the proximity to the United States, but also tariffs. Like I want to say that 90% or a little bit more of the products do not pay taxes or tariffs coming from Mexico. Also, another great advantage is, we need to educate the manufacturers here because it's a little harder for them to understand how the business works. But lead times, we have a huge advantage on that, and also shipping costs, right? Even though that not every product is a good fit for Mexico, I think in the next few years we're gonna see big companies going to Mexico and developing the products that they are not available in Mexico right now, or if they are, because what I was telling a client the other day is that probably in electronics, Mexico is big in electronics, but it's private companies that are doing the electronics for themselves, right?
Same with Vietnam.
Yeah, but what I see is that there is a lot of interest in many companies to establish in Mexico and have the capability to do private label for other companies. Also, another thing that we've been seeing is that many of the raw materials are from companies from the United States, for example. In order for them to finish their goods, they need the raw materials, right? So Mexico is just getting stronger on that end because they're able to provide a lot of raw materials. Even though if those materials come from China, or products that are semi-finished, they get them into Mexico, and then they finish in Mexico the portion that it's needed to make it a Mexican product at the end of the day, right? So I think I always tell people that Mexico is the next China. Not right now, but I truly believe that in 10 to 15 years, all Latin America could become a China Junior. And I truly mean this because I've seen also companies from other countries that are starting to establish in Mexico and in Latin American countries because of the labor that is cheaper, right? So I think it's going to happen even we like it or not, or people that China is going to be China always. But I think if we educate more the customers and also the manufacturers, big things can happen for us.
Definitely. I think those are all really great points. And, obviously China has its pros, but it has its cons as well. And I feel like, with all these different countries, even, no matter like how hard you try, there's no one country that could replace all of China, because China just has such breadth and depth of like the product selection and the supply chain. But there are certain pockets, there's certain product categories that may be a good or even a better fit. For example, eco-friendly. We're seeing a lot of stuff sourced from India, sourced from Mexico, some other countries as well. So I think it's really like it really depends on your product, guys. So that's why I designed this sourcing summit to really allow you to kind of like choose your own adventure. It's like, let's say you're sourcing home decor, maybe I should go over here. or if I'm sourcing electronics, I should go over there. There really isn't like a one size fits all, if that makes sense. So, but that's a great question, and I hope that this is helpful. And I quickly like to offer some quick shout outs to our guests joining us. And welcome to Ali from London, Deborah from Australia, G'day, Gord from Vancouver, Kevin from Colorado, and Trevor, welcome, and Luce, welcome as well. So we have a global audience. All right. So Susanna, you mentioned a few minutes ago that some people think that Mexico is the new China, right? But I think at the same time, that's not necessarily true. There's a lot of these quote unquote misconceptions about sourcing from this country and that country. So I like to just go around the room. What would be like the biggest misconception about sourcing from, let's say, your country? So let's start with Liz. What would you say is the biggest misconception about sourcing from America?
So people who have been spoiled in the China sourcing world particularly are surprised at how unhelpful US factories can be when it comes to providing support with design, with material sourcing. US factories really want you to come with the blueprint, and then they will replicate your product, the bigger and the better ones. And so people who have been really indulged with all this kind of free labor when it comes to just, even if you're making a simple t-shirt, right? They're making the pattern for you. They're doing the samples quite cheaply. And that's not going to happen in the US. So you really need to get into the mindset that just things can be more expensive in like the product development process, and that you'll need to set up your own material supply chain. So that can be a little labor intensive in the beginning, but then once it's set up, you really have all the nodes of your supply chain are within your control.
Excellent. And Sebastian?
Same thing, of course, that what we hear very, very often. I myself, we are also sellers, so we have two brands on our own. And first one, for example, is being, of course, sourced in China. Second one is fully 100% made in Germany. The issue that we hear most of the time, that Europe would always be so much more expensive in production. Parts-wise, unit-wise, that may be true. On the other hand, not necessarily always very much more expensive. Plus, if you look in, all of the shipping costs, the lead time, and of course the advantage of the several weeks where you have your products faster and you can sell a lot more during the time, in which you would usually still be waiting for your products to arrive. This is massive amounts of money because you are not out of stock. You can sell. And if you're loading the ready-made goods, for example, from Turkey, from Eastern Europe, from Germany, of course, itself, Poland, Czech Republic, or even Spain and Portugal, you put this on a truck, it's there in 2 days. And plus you do this for a couple €100 instead of a couple thousands of dollars for a truckload. So the biggest concern we very often hear is, oh, it's going to be so much more expensive. It's not necessarily going to be so much more expensive, especially with the weeks, if not months of additional time that you can sell, plus all of the marketing advantages. And by the way, many of your competitors may also come in and say, hey, we're made in Mexico, we're made in US, we're not made in China. You'll need to pull through with local sourcing at any day if you, of course, still want to compete. That's what we see specifically in Europe. Lots of them just push the additional USPs. And if you have them from anywhere, from all of the participants in here in the room, you'll have it made not in China, you'll have advantages on top, of course, as well.
Excellent. And Susanna, what's the biggest misconception about sourcing from Mexico?
Well, I would like to say that probably it depends on the product. We discover that in some cases price can be same, but it will depend what type of product it is, right? So then you will find that with the lead times and with the shipping cost, then you will have even a better price. But that's not the case in every product. Like, for example, I had a customer that we quote them on a product made from wood. And right now, the fluctuation of the price of the wood is changing probably every day. So it's a it's a concern that we have on that end. But there's other products that are more stable. For example, if it's plastic injection product of any kind, um, uh, we find out that in Mexico they can make it probably same price or sometimes cheaper. So it depends on many aspects. That's why we love to go case by case to recognize this. And also something that I forgot to mention is that our clients are seeing that they don't have to order so many units to have stock. In some cases, the manufacturers can, just storage for them any amount of units. So when they reorder, they can have it like very, very, very fast. So with that you don't have to order for 3 months and then you can just order for 1 month. That's a huge advantage that we're seeing in sourcing from Mexico.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think similar to what Sebastian said earlier about being able to get the deliveries faster. This way you can free up your cash flow because you don't have to order, like, let's say 6 months of inventory. Maybe you only need to order like 2 months or even 1 month. So think about like how much money you can save potentially, instead of placing those huge orders, smaller orders, faster turnover. So that's a great point, Susanna. Marg, biggest misconception about India.
Well, I think people don't realise that that suppliers can scale, and there are some quite really, big manufacturers that only, ship by the container. I think people think of India when we say they're handmade, that, it's going to take, 6 months to get, a container full of goods, and that's not quite the case. I mean, the factories all can scale, and they have a lot of artisans that actually work for them, and they can bring in more for the bigger orders. So I find that, it's great for people who do want to start out because you can get very small MOQs, which I'm a bit dead against because it's too expensive to ship, 200 pieces or something from India to the US. But, you don't have to order everything by the thousand, so you can test and do things. So I think the fact that you can scale, you can start off low, but you can scale very quickly if you choose the right supplier to get you through that. And then you've still got the uniqueness because the products are still, you can still advertise it as being handmade, because in most instances that's how they're made. There's not a lot of just manufacturing by machine as in China.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. And Jim, what's the biggest misconception about sourcing from Vietnam?
I mean, there's still kind of a few misconceptions like everybody else has. Like, the manufacturers in Vietnam tend to expect the clients to come in with a detailed product spec sheets and design drawings, and they'll make it from there. There's not really the designer help like Liz was mentioning. On private label, not many factories have pre-made items available for sale. So we get a lot of requests for private label items like clothing, shoes, furniture, etc. And it's oftentimes hard to get just because the factories, they don't have designs, they make other clients' designs. So they kind of do expect you to have that design files made, which I strongly suggest if you're making a product to actually make the design files yourself, because then you own the design files. Because if you get it made in China, then the factory owns those design files, and it's a real pain to get it from them oftentimes. And also, I think just decoupling the entire supply chain from China for Vietnam. Vietnam is right next door to China. It's easy to ship components from China. So we do get clients who want to have 100% non-China supply chain, and that's oftentimes difficult to do as well. And also, I think, too, with like advanced manufacturing, Vietnam's getting a lot more better at advanced manufacturing, especially over the last few years with investments. So we can do more complex products that have multiple components made of different materials, which is kind of something that a lot of people kind of haven't been expecting as much as Vietnam can actually do.
Excellent. So that's a great rebuttal to that, the misconceptions question. And now I'd like to quickly segue and give a quick shout out to India sourcing trip, and also welcome our friend Megla Bardwaj as well. So welcome, Megla. Would you like to quickly introduce yourself and tell us more about India sourcing trip And a special shout out to India Sourcing Trip, which is our gold sponsor. And this is, I'll let Megla and Mark tell you guys more about that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Gary. Sorry I'm late to the party. So India Sourcing Trip is basically an 8-day sourcing, learning, and cultural guided tour to India. And the next trip is happening in October 2022. And basically the objective of the trip is to help you learn all about sourcing from India, hear from sourcing, logistics, and quality control experts and other people who are building their brands, source innovative, unique, differentiated products. We visit a trade show and also experience India's culture. We do a day trip to Taj Mahal. We have networking drinks and dinner every night. And it's basically a really, really cool experience. The last trip was done in 2019 before COVID. And some of the attendees who attended the trip, they said it was a trip of a lifetime. So pretty awesome. So you can check it out at indiasourcingtrip.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Megla. And I will drop the link in the chat. Can you tell us again the dates of the trip?
Yeah, so the dates are October 12th to the 19th. And we also have an optional additional trip to Muradabad, which is a city where most of the wooden and metal products are manufactured. So that's an optional 3-day trip after India Sourcing Trip. That's from the 19th to the 21st. And early bird pricing is on until June 30th. So if people are interested, they can sign up before June 30th to save a bit of money.
Excellent. So I just dropped the link in the chat, guys. That's October 12th through 19th, 2022. And Mark, anything else you'd like to add? I know that you're one of the mentors on the trip as well.
Yeah, oh, look, it's something you've got to do. And honestly, Megla is the queen of organising. So provided you can get yourself to the airport, you can forget about everything because you get picked up, you get a SIM put in your phone. We have this time it's going to be a Telegram group or a WhatsApp group, whatever. And you just have to be able to look at your phone and you have to be at the bus by 9 o'clock or breakfast's on or we're going here. So it's very relaxing, but it's very well organised and it is. It's not a holiday, it's a business trip and it's go, go, go because we actually added an extra day to the trip this time because we found last time it was just people were so exhausted by the end of each night that, they were missing out on some of the good parts of the socialising. So we've actually extended the trip out and added an extra day. So we've got a little bit more downtime halfway through to sort of re-energize, I suppose. And there's a lot of networking. We're lucky we actually go to the fair by coach each day, which is about an hour, which is fantastic because it gives the coaches, and we'll have, I think we've got how many coaches now, Megla? I've lost count.
17 almost.
Yeah, 17 altogether with all the suppliers and that as well. So we will have a lot of help on the bus. So, you can sit with people and, pick their brains and, people that have been doing a lot of, sourcing from India in the past. So I think all those things help. So it's, pretty well, you've got use of the coaches the whole time really, because even if we go to Taj Mahal, we're on the train, you can sit with somebody and pick their brains once again. So I think it's really a good time to get lots of information from a lot of high profile. We've got some really high profile people coming on the trip. So, to be able to sit with them for a week and get some good information for the cost of the trip.
I'm sold.
And Gary, you were on the... Sorry.
Sebastian's is sold.
So he's coming. Good.
Awesome. Yes. We'll reserve
Trip of a lifetime.
But Gary, you were on the previous trip. Why don't you share your experience?
Yeah, I thought it was amazing. My background is sourcing from China. I've lived in China over a decade, but just getting the diverse perspective, just, going on the ground and not only going to several Indian factories, we also were able to attend the Delhi Fair. So this is kind of like the Canton Fair of India. I keep calling that. It's one of the biggest trade shows, and there's, I believe, thousands of suppliers there. Is that right, Megla? Like there's, this
Yes,
huge
4,000
number.
plus. Yeah.
4,000 suppliers. I mean, literally, I know that a lot of you guys watching have been to Canton Fair, and that's like a great way anytime you go to a trade show to fast track your sourcing, because you can get hands-on, see the products, touch and feel it, meet with suppliers face to face, look them in the eye. You can do the same thing for India. So I think that's a very golden opportunity in October coming up for anyone that is interested. I mean, you can really fast track. And the fact that Megla and Marg, they've handpicked a lot of the coaches, and also they have service providers as well. They have sourcing companies that can help you, other companies as well. I think that can really accelerate if you are thinking about doing that. So definitely consider it. And I've dropped the link in the chat, guys. So if you have any questions, feel free. Yeah, so I'm super excited about that, and let's get to some Q&A. I know that we have a lot of people in the audience. If you there's some questions already. If you guys have any other questions about sourcing from any country in the world, I mean, come on, you have like some of the top sourcing experts from all over the world. I mean, I don't know how valuable this would be. I mean, if you're stuck, you're not sure where to go, why don't you drop the question in the chat right now? Before we end, we only have about 20-ish minutes left, guys. Okay, so the clock is ticking. I'm going to get to some of the questions, and if anyone else on the panel, if you would like to ask a question to one of the other experts, feel free. I'd love to keep this interactive so we can deliver as much value as we can to everyone. We had a question in the chat from Arshad. Lately, a lot of people are sourcing handmade products from Pakistan. Any ideas? Anyone with any insider experience on Pakistan?
Yeah, I can share a bit on Pakistan. So Pakistan is, of course, the neighboring country to India. There are lots of really good products coming out of Pakistan, and one of the categories is leather. So there's lots of leather gloves, leather jackets, other types of leather garments. That's a big category as well. So yeah, similar to India, there are certain product categories that can be sourced in Pakistan as well. And I do know some Amazon sellers who are doing that. So yeah, that's definitely a consideration. But of course, a smaller number of categories even than in India. It's mostly textiles, leather, those kinds of products.
Yes. I saw in a survey done by Kima, a survey of US and European buyers of all of the different sourcing countries. And Pakistan was one of the quickest growing countries. We don't have a specialist from Pakistan at this event, but maybe in the future we could feature one. If anyone knows of anyone, if you could recommend, I would really appreciate that. All right. So yeah, thanks, Arshad. Yes, please do. All right. And then we have a follow-up question, Arshad. Is sourcing from Europe viable for selling in USA? What would you say, Sebastian?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, again, for all of the countries, I think there was a next question also from Nevada Incorporated. Whether we can see how many products can be made. And I remember you sent the list around, Gary, which products can be done in which, in which market. And I ticked like all of them, besides like what we discussed earlier, electronics, or, for example, one of my brands up here, we do small covers for the selfie camera of the smartphones. Anything that's small and mass produced for very, very cheap in China, besides electronics as well. Almost everything else can be sourced, not only in Europe, but also in the Americas, partially even starting in Africa, in the rest of the Asian countries. So sourcing viable the products from Europe to the US, yes, we have tons of US sellers by now as well, sourcing from Europe. Once for shorter shipping time, for the marketing advantages, for the lower costs. So anything of that is possible, and you'd be quite surprised how many products and what kind of products you can source in other countries outside of China.
Absolutely. And I'd like to quickly highlight a special bonus that we've prepared for you guys. And basically, I know everyone is selling is probably in like a different product category, right? So we've literally done the hard work for you guys, because I've worked with everybody here today on this panel. So we put together this master product category checklist of the different countries that you can source from. So it's literally, if let's say you want to source like plastic products, you can get it from this and this country. So this is available for free for everybody that gets their free pass for the 7-Figure Sourcing Summit. So if you haven't gotten it yet, stay tuned for the email or just contact our support. We'll make sure to get that to you. And everybody on the panel has contributed. I'd just like to thank each and every one of you for all the time you put in. I mean, this is super valuable. I mean, you probably can save yourself like 100 hours of work from having to manually contact suppliers from like 6 different places, right? You can instantly know where to go. All right. So I know that Novata Incorporated asked the same question. I mean, get our sourcing product category checklist. We have over 100 different product categories. We literally looked at Amazon data, like the top selling product categories. We just listed everything, and then we have all of that information there. All right. So let's keep going, guys.
There's one question, Gary, maybe if I may add, like to vet, what does Nevada maybe mean with vetting? Just figuring out if the product is being done in or is possible to do in Europe, or as well to say, how do we do quality control? And I think for the quality control, anybody here would also agree to say is like we can do either ourselves quality control or work with local experts to say, hey, once the products are being done, make sure that the quality control, for example, directly is also done in the country of production. So vetting the products, you can always, of course, also do locally. There are always companies around if the sourcing experts here don't even offer those services on their own.
Any suggestions or any specific tips, guys, about quality control in your country of expertise?
Do it.
Yeah, just do it. Yeah. I mean, there's so many third-party inspection companies and quality control companies that it's stupid not to do it. I mean, you want to get your products checked before, or the factories checked before you make a first payment, and you want to get your products checked before they ship. And always just have the contracts and tell them to make sure you have your payments tied in with successful completion of payments is the best way. So first 30% for the upfront payment, make sure it passes inspection by a third party that's independently that you chose. That's not recommended by the factory, because if it's recommended by a factory, that's a pretty big red flag. Get inspections. Get inspections. You can see. Be on it.
Yeah, and for bigger orders, you can also do a pre-production or a midline inspection as well. And especially if you're doing textiles, apparel, and if it's a large order, then you want to do an incoming inspection as well on the fabric to make sure that the colors match and everything. So
and it's like $300-$400 a man-day. I'm not sure where it varies, but yes, when you're placing thousands or tens of thousands dollar order, $400-$500 is nothing.
A small story maybe from the past. We had one of our customers before he came to us. He was sourcing products from, I think it was from China. He got himself some samples. He did the sample test on his own in Germany. So he had to ship the products, for example, to Germany. Small hint, in order to save 2 to 3 weeks or so, get your products, for example, directly checked where in the country, even the samples, get them checked in the country. Where they're produced. We do the quality control, for example, also in China, directly locally there. This saves a lot of time shipping the products first to your country, importing them, checking them. But that's a little side story. Main one is customer got himself the samples. He said, fantastic, great, all right, mass production, everything goes through, everything goes well. Mass production done. They're shipping the stuff through from China to Germany. It was an order of $100,000 roughly. Imported the stuff, got it all through the customs duties, custom fees, everything paid, taxes paid. He gets the stuff onto his yard, opens the container, and notices what? The products are different from the samples. Definitely. And now here comes the big issue. I mean, getting the container back into the original country, back to China, exporting again, getting it through all the documentation, plus those huge shipping costs. Forget it. He said it was like the $100,000 lesson for him. If you're going for a big production, do the sample control, of course. So the quality inspection for the samples, of course. But before the final payment, before the shipment, before getting the products over, do another quality control. It may cost like $300, $400 to do it, but that's money really well spent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. I've been talking about this for years. Like, back in 2016, I kind of drew like this really crude like curve, if you can imagine, like on the like X and Y axis, and like the earlier you can check that problem, the cheaper it is to fix it.
Absolutely.
At the factory.
Every step is like 3 times more.
Yeah, it goes all the way up. So like if your containers in Germany, you made it in China, what are you going to do? Pay another like $15,000 to ship it back to Germany and wait another 6 months? I don't think so, right? So the earlier you check it, like on the factory floor, starting with the pre-production sample, getting pre-shipment inspection, that's the cheaper and the quicker solution to fix it. And also you haven't let the balance of the payment to the supplier yet, so you use that as leverage. So they're more inclined to fix it because they want to get paid, right? So definitely tomorrow, day 2, we have a master class on quality control and lab certification from Rahul Chavla from Kima. Kima does pre-shipment inspections. I've been using them for like a decade. They're in China, they're in Southeast Asia, I believe they're in Mexico, Vietnam as well. Yeah. So if you need someone like a third party, they charge, I think, like $300-ish for like 1 day of work. So I think that's like a small investment. For
it's definitely worth it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the cost, just do it.
Yeah. All right. It's unanimous. Okay, let's keep going, guys. I know we have several questions. I'd like to welcome Ruben from Mexico. Great. Thanks for joining us, Ruben. Welcome also Elaine Pofelt. Love this global knowledge sharing. Thank you, Elaine. Elaine is an alumni speaker of 7-Figure Sellers Summit. She's written a number of books, tiny businesses, huge money, huge profit, like the one person $1 million business. She really specializes in interviewing a lot of 7-figure sellers and, kind of digging up like those gold nuggets, how they did it. So I highly recommend you check out her book if you haven't already. So good to see you, Elaine. Salim, for phone accessories, which countries would you suggest other than China? What do you guys think?
It all depends on the product. Whether it's, for example, leather, maybe Pakistan, and maybe something from India, maybe from Europe.
Mexico too.
Vietnam makes
Mexico, of course, tons
of accessories, so it's totally viable. But it really depends on material. But like we've done silicone phone cases from Vietnam, as well as leather, so it's totally suitable country. I think everybody's just going to recommend their own country.
Yeah. I saw South Korea as well. My phone case was made in South Korea. So this is like I think it's, what do you call it, like a soft plastic, like TPU one. So yeah, you gotta dig deeper and definitely get the product category checklist.
So South Korea for this one too.
Yeah, there
Spigen?
You go.
Is it Spigen?
Huh? It's Spigen. It is Spigen. Yeah, we got the same one, same brand. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, let's keep going, guys. Ruben, welcome from San Diego. How, Zoe, will recordings from the sessions be available? So right now, this is day 1. So the sessions are live for 24 hours. And afterwards, they're closed and available for purchase by the All Access Pass. So if you want to upgrade to the All Access Pass, you'll get lifetime access to all the recordings and also the audios. And we have some special bonuses from our speakers that we'll talk about at the end as well. All right. Rachel asks, generally for textile products, what is the difference in shipping from Pakistan as compared to India or Vietnam or even China? This may be a broad question.
I think we need to get a Pakistan expert next time.
Well, maybe Mark, you can talk about India.
Yeah, no, well, look, shipping from India is timeline-wise about 21 days. Everything goes from Port of Shiva or Mumbai. And we suggest that you actually go to the East Coast, not the West Coast. It's much quicker. It's about 35 days, I think, if you go into California. And the other thing is, obviously, number one, you don't get that horrible congestion that everything goes from China to California. So that is a big bonus. And also container costs are a lot cheaper on the East Coast than the West Coast. So that's another saving grace with that. And the cost of shipping from India is probably, I would imagine, much the same as from Pakistan because they're fairly close together. But I think at the moment containers are around about for a 40-foot about $12,000 or something like that. But it varies every week. The costs change, but it never got much above that in the whole pandemic. Whereas going from China, you were looking at 25,000 was sort of seemed to be the going rate. So it will obviously all stabilise and things will change. But with the way China is at the moment, you never know because things that are not leaving, or they're leaving and there's congestion everywhere. So I think it's, India at the moment would be a much safer bet than sort of China.
The shipping itself, I think, of course, I mean, for once, it depends on where is this supposed to go, which country, Rachel. But besides of the shipping cost as well, one of the things also to calculate in, if you consider Pakistan, as you've seen, China right now, of course, having been in lockdown in Shenzhen, Shanghai just came out of lockdown. Beijing is going in lockdown partially. Big parts of the city are locked off. One of the issues there is, of course, also the Chinese suppliers. I mean, again, I'm not speaking also fully against China production. We're still doing 50% of all of our sourcing products in China. But they're still creating a huge order backlog. So it means while they're in lockdown, the suppliers, the producers, they're still receiving orders and still receiving orders and still receiving orders. And while they're in lockdown, nobody can produce. That means once they're getting out of lockdown, they're having such a huge production schedule coming up that your product may just be not immediately being produced. So your product may be, 2-3 months delayed when your production will just start. While in Pakistan or India or Vietnam, they may start immediately, as they are not in a lockdown, and they may handle, all right, we have a production slot available maybe even this week or within 2 or 3. While in China currently, it may be that some of them you may need to wait 2 to 3 months until your production may start. So also that may, of course, be, in terms of shipping cost, a faster production on top.
I also want to add something that we're seeing in the US, where there tends to be extra factory space, right? You have these kind of older factories that were once very busy and then got slower, and they are converting some of their space to fulfillment. So almost acting as a 3PL, but instead of you shipping your goods out of the factory, they're just going off the line to another part, and then they're fulfilling your Shopify orders or whatever it is. So for people who are flexible and don't need, a separate 3PL or an FBA warehouse, this can be an option that is advantageous for them, because your shipping cost is zero. There's the time and cost goes to nothing. And we're even seeing some factories take inventory from overseas, so you can condense your inventory in the factory with whatever they're making, and bring in your goods from elsewhere, and they'll store it all and ship it. So it's kind of a creative, useful solution.
I will also want to add that in the case of Mexico is also good for textiles. It depends on the product, right? But one of the advantages of Mexico or do textiles in Mexico is that the timeline to get your products from Mexico to the United States could be as low as 3 days, right? So, and then on the cost, it's pretty much, it could be for a 44-foot container, it could be around $3,000 to $4,000. So those are, it's worth to take a look on what products can Mexico manufacture in the textile industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those points are key. I mean, it's not just the product cost, but also the shipping cost and the shipping time, right? So yeah, that's, you guys have to do the math. You have to look at the bottom line, not just the top line product cost. All right. So excellent question, Rachel. And be sure to tune in tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll have Rafael Elbaz. He's going to give a shipping and freight forwarding masterclass, talking about ways you can save money on that. So I think that's super relevant. And he's also, he runs Unicargo. They work with over 6,000 Amazon FBA, e-commerce, and small business owners. And then he's going to give a forecast on what he's seeing for the rest of this year, Q3 and especially Q4. I know like a lot of you guys are already getting started to inventory ramp up for Q4. So definitely don't miss that. Shipping is still key, guys. All right. I know we still have a lot of questions to go. We only have about 10 minutes left. I know our speakers have to go soon. So let's quickly go through the chat. Nobody says this is perfect and what I was looking for. Yes, be sure to grab the sourcing checklist we prepared for you guys. Deborah says, thanks, everyone. Ruben says, great, thank you. I'd like to have your product sourcing checklist. Yes, make sure you get your free pass and you will have it in your inbox. Deborah says, yes, the checklist will be fantastic to have. Yes, that's why we created it. QC is important. Do you have any questions? Companies that do QC, Kima is the one I use, where you can contact our sourcing experts on the panel as well. Salim added that Salim is looking for chargers and cables. Any quick thoughts on that? Where you?
That's the thing about the phone accessory question. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Very much likely directly China, Taiwan,
Yeah.
anybody who's producing the electronics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't really source too many electronics like that from Vietnam.
Yes.
Yeah, same for India.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Arshad, quality-wise, are all countries here comparable? What about the quality standard, like the benchmark? Maybe, I know this is hard to quantify. I mean,
Yeah.
what would, I mean, I guess my personal question would be, especially for the US, Liz, we talked a little bit about this in your session today, but like overall, can we expect, let's say, quality to be higher in the US than, let's say, overseas? Yeah.
Yes, you can expect fewer mishaps, and the issue of subbing, where materials are mysteriously substituted without your knowledge, right, during production, that really doesn't happen in the US. In all my 15 years, I've never seen that happen. You'll have other issues. Sometimes a factory will not be as sophisticated, and so their quality might be a little bit more rustic. That's like the word I'll use. But that is something you'll figure out during sampling. So you'll have fewer production surprises. If you go through sampling and you get, perfect samples, it's much less likely that you'll have an issue compared to other countries that I work in.
Definitely. All right.
Same as in China. I think you can get the highest quality in any country also of the world if you're, of course, willing to pay.
Yeah.
And look at China, all the quality, what they're producing.
Mm-hmm.
I think all the big Mercedes engines are completely made in China. The Audi cars, A4, A6, A8, all of the ones with the L, they're completely made in China. So you can get, if you have a good quality control, if you have a good management on top of the company, and if you're willing to pay, of course, whatever it costs, you can get the best quality pretty much anywhere.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Even in India, the top retailers like Walmart, IKEA, Kmart, they're all sourcing from India. So it really depends on how you manage quality. And I feel that quality is very subjective in sourcing. It's basically adherence to specifications. So as long as you can ensure that your supplier can adhere to your specific specifications, that's good quality.
Yeah, and there's definitely, like, Vietnam has factories of all quality types, but I mean, we obviously try to get the best quality we can. And I mean, once you kind of vet the factory and they have modern equipment and know the standards, then you can get great products made in Vietnam. Yeah, I mean, they have modern machinery, modern equipment. So it's really, I think, just finding the right factory, but they definitely exist in all countries. I mean, if you don't vet your factories and just go with the cheapest bid you get, then anywhere, not just Vietnam, but anywhere really, you're probably going to get a lot lower quality. So you do need to be on it. But yeah, I think you can definitely get good quality in Vietnam, and I think it's top notch. Yeah, tons of big brands making in Vietnam. Patagonia, Apple, Canon, LG, Samsung. Samsung makes almost an entire Galaxy line of phones in Vietnam, which I think are pretty high quality.
And we're seeing iPad production.
Yeah, they're moving iPad and possibly some MacBook production to Vietnam right now. I think AirPods are made almost exclusively in Vietnam at the moment.
Yeah, mine are made in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Excellent. And Susanna, can you tell us about Mexico quality, like what to expect?
Well, I will say that in Mexico too, like the rest of the countries, in Mexico there is a huge manufacturers. For example, in the automotive industry, like many of the parts that the cars have and come here to the United States are made in Mexico, right? But as a particular case of the products that we've been sourcing, I want to say that in some cases, the quality is much better just because they don't do massive quantities, or not massive quantities. I want to say multiple type of products in the same manufacturer, right? So they focus on just one type of product or anything like that. So they are very careful on the quality of the product. And something that I want to mention about when it's a handmade product, sometimes the brands or the sellers want to have like a product that it's pretty much the same, all the products, and it's I want to say that that's hard. So in that case, we need to manage expectations of, it's handmade, it's a product that is not going to be completely equal, right? Because even if there is machinery involved, there's also the part of, the handmade, and that's where they get like, oh, but this and the wood, and it's not the same. So in those cases, sometimes it depends on the product that is hard, and also I encourage people to really understand their product, because what we've been seeing is that they sometimes make a product in China or in other country, and they just want to duplicate that in Mexico, and probably the wood is not going to be the same one, for example. So they need to really understand the product and see if that product can be manufactured in another type of wood, and it will that sometimes change the quality. Not always for worse, but sometimes for better. And that's what we've been seeing in the products made from wood, that they get surprised and they're like, we have a customer in Australia, and she was very surprised that the quality was much better, in Mexico that what she was getting from China. So again, I agree with all of them. Quality, it's it depends, it depends on what you think it's quality, right?
There's a
Excellent.
small add-on, if I may come in for the customer who have those things where you say all of a sudden it will be a different material. One of the issues for Amazon sellers, of course, is very often to say is like, I need to have exactly the same product because I do not want to go through the whole effort of taking images again, start making the listings and all of those things additionally as well. But if now, like Susanna said, you may have additional wood in there with a second type, the product will be slightly different. Put them all together, make them under one parent, so make it a second children, align them together under one and the same parents on Amazon, for example, and then put them then together with a second variety. So you may have exactly the same products. The reviews will all count up on top of it. And once you're running out of the first stock, you may simply have a second stock under the same parents if there is an issue with having the same product made in a different country, but from another material. So in order, yes, you will take images again, but copy all the text, copy all the headlines, copy all the backends in there again, put them under one parent. And once you're running out from one of the stock, you immediately switch over automatically to your new product that you may have gotten from Susanna in Mexico.
Yeah, that's great.
Excellent.
Yeah, we have that issue too with a lot of our clients are sourcing in China already, have this pretty well established project, and it's hard to get the exact same materials a lot of times in Vietnam or the exact same item. So you do have to make some adjustments usually.
All right, guys. I know there are so many more questions. I wish we had more time, but we're right about out of time. I know some of our speakers have to run at the end of the hour, and we have a special prize giveaway as well. Let me quickly go around the room to ask everyone what is the best way to connect. So if people want to learn more, and then we'll do a special prize giveaway. All right. So let's start with Liz. What's the best way to connect with you for people that want to learn more?
You can go to our website. It's learntomakeaproduct.com.
learntomakeaproduct.com. Okay, great. And Sebastian, what's the best way to connect?
Go to signify.net, Signify a Z in the beginning and a Y in the end. And up there, right on top, there's a booking slot. Just grab a time slot and we'll get back to you with a call.
Perfect. And Jim.
Yeah, cosmosourcing.com. That's cosmosourcing.com. Yeah, just fill out one of our contact forms from Contact Us, and we'll get in touch with you pretty quickly.
Excellent. And Megala and Marg.
Indiasourcing.net, that's our website. You can find suppliers, contact them directly. We've got service providers, a lot of information, education as well.
Okay, excellent. And Susanna.
Yeah, for us, it's going to be manufacturersuppliers.com. You can, send us an email there on the contact form, or to info@manufacturersuppliers.com. And okay, also, I'm all over like the social media, LinkedIn and Instagram and all that. So I'm more than happy to, answer your question.
Yes. Okay, excellent. Thank you. And I know, Liz, you got to run, so feel free to drop if you have to go. And anyone else on the panel, we're going to wrap up in just a few minutes. So thank you so much. All right. So, and also, just to reiterate, everyone that has the free pass to the 7-Figure Sourcing Summit, below each speaker's videos, there's a additional free bonus that you can grab. I don't have time to go through all those bonuses right now, so please refer back to the sessions from earlier today. They're available for 24 hours, so make sure you grab those. And many of the speakers have offered like free consultations, and they've been super generous. I mean, that's super valuable. If anything is useful here, I'm sure being able to speak with them like directly, that would be infinitely valuable. All right, we have a special prize. Megla and Mark, please tell us more.
So the special prize is, and first of all, I have to say, this is exclusive for Gary for 7-Figure Sourcing Summit. We have never done this before. We have never given any discounts. Gary, this is only for you.
Well, it's only for our audience. I had to kind of twist Megla's arm a little bit. No one else is getting it. I had to twist Megla and Mark's arm. So I hope this is useful, guys. Yeah, tell us more.
Yes. So we're offering a discount on India sourcing trip. So a $250 discount on the upcoming India sourcing trip in October. So Gary, do you want to go ahead and ask the question? Do you have the question over there? Yes. Let's display the question on the screen. So we're going to be asking people a question, and then the first person to respond correctly is going to be the winner.
Okay. Who's going to say the question, you or me?
You say it, Gary.
Okay, so the question is, the first person that gets it right, you can get $250 off your India sourcing trip. Nobody else is getting it. In which city is India sourcing trip held? In which city is India sourcing trip held? All right, go guys. First person that gets this right, you get the $250 off. All right, so you'll be able to save some money joining them in India. And I mean, that's the best way to learn, to just, boots on the ground. I think everyone else on the panel would agree, right? I mean, what is the best way to learn to source, right? I mean, just actually visiting the country, be there, right? Yeah. And, that's kind of like graduating from like internet to real life, right? So, so feel free to drop the...
Is the difference. I mean, if you can walk around a fair and you can touch and feel the products, no matter what country you're in, you know what you're in for, then, there's no surprises when you start ordering the sample and it's not as thick or as heavy or whatever as you anticipated. I think it's the best way.
Yeah, so we have some replies coming in. Rachel's not sure. Arshad says Agra.
No.
Deborah says India. No. Okay, it's still open. Rachel says city. Andhra Pradesh.
That's a state.
That's a state. Okay.
We're learning a geography lesson.
We're learning a geography lesson today as well.
Guys, hint. Go Google search. Just Google search India sourcing trip.
Or even better, go to the link that we provided earlier.
Yes, exactly.
Just to be transparent, I am an affiliate to India sourcing trip. So if you do sign up through our link, I will get a small commission that helps keep the lights on. And, I believe in this trip. I've attended this trip. I know that Megla and Mark has helped many sellers succeed, and they have, coaches that have gone through the first trip, and now they're very successful sellers now. So I think it is great. So Arshad says Delhi.
Yes, that is the correct answer, Arshad.
Congratulations, Arshad. Excellent. Okay, there you go. So Arshad, how can he, or I'm not sure if it's he or she, how can Arshad redeem this, Megla?
So Arshad, you can email us at info@indiasourcingtrip.com.
Okay.
Gary, do you want to just type that?
Yes. info@indiasourcingtrip.com. And Rachel asked, when is the trip? Could you repeat the dates again?
Yeah, so it's October 12th to the 19th. Those are the trip dates. And then we have an additional factory tours to Moradabad, October 19th to the 21st. But the main trip is 12th to the 19th.
Okay, great.
And the trip is held twice a year, every March, April, and then in October. So if you're not able to make it this time, you can always join us next time in spring as well.
Okay, great. So, Arshad, feel free to contact info@indiasourcingtrip.com. All right. So, thank you so much, guys. We had one last question. I'd like to just quickly, if anyone has any experience sourcing from Africa, if anyone has any insights sourcing from Africa.
Yes.
No, not for me.
No.
We
Yes,
do sourcing, of
Sebastian.
course, also from Africa by now already. If you followed it probably over the last years, China is pumping a lot of money, of course, into Africa. It's supposed to be the new China, or the new, it's not the proper word, of course, but the new workbench of the world. Even China by now is, of course, sourcing from Africa, as it's still cheaper than in China. You will face it depending on which country, of course. I mean, there's strong politics going on, there's civil strikes, civil wars, and everything going on. So you will not be able to source from every country. There is huge corruption, of course, depending on which country you're going on. But you more and more, I mean, we have part of our team even sitting in South Africa. So when you're going to developed countries of Africa, definitely you can also start sourcing products from there. You'll have a lot of course, agricultural products in there, raw materials you will have, but also textiles and all the initial products, which are usually when a country starts up, building itself an infrastructure and building itself production capacities. They're for sure producing products for their own country as well as then starting for export. So basic products you will definitely also find in Africa already, and we're sourcing from there.
Excellent. All right. So we're right about out of time, guys. Thank you so much for coming. If I can just add one more thing. We do have a optional all access pass, guys. So if you'd like to upgrade to get lifetime access to all of the trainings and additional bonuses, I highly recommend that you get it at sevenfiguresourcingsummit.com/offer. And right now we have that available, and you will get additional bonuses from our panelists. Like Jim is offering a 30-minute consultation to answer your questions about sourcing from Vietnam, only for the all access pass holders. We can't offer to everyone because he would be bombarded. So if you want to upgrade, you can get that consultation with Jim. And Sebastian's team, Zignify, is offering a 30-minute free consultation about Europe sourcing optimization and also product optimization. You know, he was dropping some Amazon product listing best practices. So if you like to get that, that's free for our all access pass holders, 30 minutes. Liz, who mentioned earlier, she's offering a membership to her accelerator. She's a US sourcing and product accelerator, so she can tell you how to learn how to make a product. And in addition, I believe India Sourcing Workshop is offering 20% off for the all access pass holders. And Susanna is also offering a 30-minute consultation about sourcing from Mexico questions. I think just, you know, having like a virtual coffee, you know, sitting down with one of these experts, you know, think about how valuable that would be for your business. So I highly recommend you guys consider getting the all access pass, and then the link should be in the chat. All right. So with that, any final comments, guys, before we go? Any last tips or 80-20 rule, your number one recommendation about sourcing from your country?
Just do it. Give it a try. I think, I mean, it's diversification is the key nowadays. You can't put all your eggs in one basket, and there's so many different options, so many alternatives to China. So yeah, just go for it.
Anywhere outside of China, you will probably see that the countries or the suppliers are not as set up as the Chinese in terms of selling. You request a quote in China, and we usually go for finding 30 suppliers in China and about 60 potential suppliers in any other country of the world. And you will see that China, they immediately bombard you. They send you 30, you send out 30 requests, you get 29 answers and 28 out of them with prices. You will get the same in any one of the other countries. You just need to be more patient. And usually we used to say it was about 2 emails and 3 calls in Europe that you need to get in contact, get to a proposal. Now we're saying more, it's like 3 calls and 3 emails, but be persistent, do it, stick on there, and they will also come back and give you enough quotations. Do not only get 2, 3, or 4, but target to get a really good market overview. Let's say to get 10, 15, maybe even 20 proposals, because then you'll see the high prices, the low prices, the high prices, lower, 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 lower. And this gives you a massive amount of negotiation possibilities. So stick with it, be persistent, don't give up.
Excellent. Definitely check out Sebastian's session to learn more about what he's talking about. He offered 11 hacks, stuff like this. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Vietnam, like you said, you do need to be persistent, do your research on suppliers, and kind of reach out to them directly. There's not like an Alibaba or central resource that's equivalent. So you do need to kind of do your research, reach out to factories directly, be persistent, and kind of follow up multiple times. They does take some time, but it's worth it. I mean, you get better prices, but yeah, get as many quotes as you can, get as many contacts as you can.
Yeah, and I will say the same thing. Like it's just take that next step to discover what other countries can offer, and like Sebastian said, like it's just a matter of patience. You have to be patient because most of our countries, and I speak for Mexico, when it comes to private labeling, they are not well educated on that end, and that's one of the efforts that we are trying to do in manufacturer suppliers. My co-founder and I, we've been trying to educate them, and the more education they have, they're going to be available to fulfill your needs. And sometimes it's just a matter that you take them by the hand and show them whatever they need to know, and they will grow with you. They have the doors open to do that. They are willing to learn whatever it takes to help you to accomplish whatever that you want to do in these countries, right?
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. So we covered a lot today, and just some thank yous. Thanks so much from Novada, Salim. Since Trevor Fortune, how do I contact you? Trevor, I saw that you had Africa sourcing experience. I'd love to learn more about that. If you want to shoot us a note, that'd be great. Gord says, thank you, everyone. Ruben says, thanks for all, guys. All right. That was an excellent session, guys. Thank you so much to Sebastian and Jim and Megla and Mark and Susanna and Liz for generously spending your time with us and teaching us the ins and outs of sourcing from your country and all over the world. I hope this is helpful. Definitely grab the sourcing product category checklist, over 100 different product categories that all of these experts have helped contribute to that. I think that will really help guide you guys. And I highly recommend that you follow up with all of our experts today, depending on where you want to source from. I think, definitely that's the first step, right? Just, sometimes it's not what, but it's like who, right? It's like who can help do that for you. All right. So thank you, everybody, for watching, and we will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is all about advanced sourcing, supply chain, shipping, quality control, negotiations, product design. We have someone that's ex-Dyson 10 years. Super excited for that, and we will see you then. All right. Thanks so much. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Drew.
Thank you,
Bye.
guys.
Thank you, everybody. Pleasure.